Well, President Joe Biden facing quite a lot of issues when it comes to the upcoming presidential election, but it seems him and his team believe that the war between Israel and Hamas is the most hurtful because after seeing all of the campus protests, all the violence across the country, he shifted his stance from becoming a staunch supporter of Israel to being, I don't know, something different. He's not a staunch supporter anymore. Now Biden's apparently so worried about the Palestinian people or the people marching here, he's willing to let them into the United States, maybe hundreds of thousands of them. It's an insane idea. Here's Florida Senator Rick Scott talking about it.
Israel has no choice but to destroy Hamas, right? Egypt, unfortunately, won't open up their borders to let the Palestinians or the Gazans come in. I mean, that's frustrating that that's not happening. I don't know why Biden is doing nothing to force Egypt to open up their borders so the civilians, if he was worried about the civilians in Gaza, get Egypt to open their borders and let them come in. But this idea that we are not going to support Israel's ability to destroy Hamas, then how is Israel ever? I mean, how do you ever live in any peace in Israel?
And now there are strings attached because apparently the Biden administration is offering Israel assistance if it does not fully invade Rafah, does as it's told. This from the Washington Post, by the way, including sensitive intelligence to help the Israeli military pinpoint the location of Hamas leaders and find the group's hidden tunnels. But why isn't the U.S. doing that already? Is the Biden administration protecting Hamas at this point? Here to discuss all of this, former Congressman and the Dallas County GOP Chair, Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. Colonel, good to see you as always.
Pleasure to be with you, Steve. Thank you.
Look, I played a clip earlier today on my program here on Real America's Voice of Joe Biden in 2014 saying America's strategic interests are in Israel. We will never abandon Israel. That's when he was vice president. Now he's saying, Israel, if you go into Rafah, we will not support you. We will not give you the weapons and the equipment you need, and apparently not the intelligence either. What's going on here?
Well, because the strategic importance and perspective of the Biden administration is to get reelected. And for some odd reason, they think that these 18 to 24-year-olds who 4 months ago, a survey, Harvard-Harris poll said 51% of them said we should just get rid of Israel and give everything over to Hamas, a terrorist organization. And there are 53% of these young people in that group, young Americans, who believe that Hamas, they should go out and be able to speak about, genocide of Jews without any consequences. That's why they're out on these college university campuses. So Joe Biden is banking on electoral success over defeating a terrorist organization. And what you just talked about, if we are withholding information and intelligence that would help to eradicate a terrorist organization that killed Americans, holding Americans hostage, let me tell you something. That's a felony offense. That's high crimes and misdemeanors. That is aiding and abetting our enemy, a terrorist organization, providing them material support and comfort.
Well, and I don't put much weight in this yet, but brand new polling came out of 6 of the swing states. You might have seen this today from the New York Times. The only swing state that Joe Biden has any semblance of being just a smidge ahead, 1 point ahead in Michigan. Does that because he changed his position on Israel? Maybe, because Michigan and Minnesota, the 2 states, are so concerned about with the Arab or the Muslim vote saying, you know what, Joe Biden, we will not vote for you. Is there a change here in the wind?
Well, who cares? I mean, what you were talking about in Michigan, you were talking about Rashida Tlaib's, constituency. And in Minnesota, you're talking about Ilhan Omar's constituency, 2 people who I think should be removed from being United States House of Representative members because they are, once again, becoming propagandists for Islamic terrorists. Remember, it was Ilhan Omar who said 9/11, some people did something. So I think that right now, when you look at support for Israel, I believe last time I checked, 80 to 83% of Americans are on the side of Israel. Joe Biden is coming down on the wrong side of this issue. And what happens when he only wins those 2 states, Michigan and Minnesota, and then much so every other state goes away from him because now he has to worry about how do I, appease in the Jewish community, which they see right now. Joe Biden is saying, kill us. Go ahead and make sure that the Jews are eradicated. Make sure that you keep a terrorist organization in place that says it wants to destroy us, the Jewish people, and the only Jewish state in the world, which is Israel.
Sure. I may have said this to you before, but I've talked to a number of friends of mine that are Jewish. Several of those are people that dislike Donald Trump. Absolutely would never vote for Donald Trump, voted for Joe Biden. In the last several weeks, to a man, to a woman, every single one of them says, I'm voting for Trump. Every single one of them. I'm voting for Trump. The Jewish vote's gone, right? And it's a smaller vote impactfully in this country, but it has impact in New York and New Jersey and Connecticut and different places, could have impact in congressional races. But it's those two big swing states of Michigan and Minnesota that could have the most weight out of all this. But to me, Colonel, how is it that they get back to, basically I feel like they've alienated both sides. There's no winner here. Stay with our ally, Israel. That's the only choice you have, because you've alienated both sides. You're tap dancing down a razor blade. It's not working for you. Do the right thing. Do they know how?
No, they don't know how, because once again, it's about political calculations, and they continue to look down and see, we got to have Michigan, we got to have Minnesota. So let's go ahead and sell out the Jewish people in order for us to get electoral success. But really and truthfully, how much credence and credibility do you put into those 18 to 24-year-olds to actually show up in the polls? Because guess what? If Israel goes into Rafah, if Israel goes in and eradicates and eliminates Hamas, they're going to blame Joe Biden for that. And they may not show up at all. They may not vote for Trump. They may not vote for Biden. And that's a loss for Joe Biden.
Yeah, it certainly is. And if it was a no toss-up map today, Donald Trump would be at 275 electoral votes. So they know they're up against it. This despite all of these show trials going on all over the country, Colonel. I'll give you the last word.
Well, I think that what this really shows is that this administration has the wrong perspective when it comes to national security and also the security of America. When you have this open borders policy, that means you're allowing terrorists to come right in. Let's always understand that Israel is the canary in the coal mine. These terrorists, they don't care about not just Israel, but it's Western civilization. And when you look at Egypt, Egypt knows that Hamas is the Muslim Brotherhood, and they don't want the Muslim Brotherhood back into Egypt because, as you know, Anwar Sadat was assassinated by the Muslim Brotherhood. And guess what? He tried to establish peace with Menachem Begin years ago during the Carter administration.
Which did no good, did it? Did no good whatsoever. All right. Colonel, always appreciate you being here. We'll keep an eye on it, but I think the Democrats clearly have created a mess that they can't seem to figure out how to get out of. Sir, thank you.
You're right. Thank you so much. God bless, Steve.